Welcome back to the Wealth Juice podcast. As always, it's your boys Ryan and Corey here with another episode for you. Today, we're going to take you through the sale of one of our rental properties. This was one of our, I think it was like our second property that we purchased together, second or third. And it was for a long time, it was a big piece of our portfolio. And it was one of the properties that we felt like we were the most hands-on with. We have recently transitioned to more buying remote, and this was one of our babies. And so today we're going to take you through the reason that we decided to sell it, the actual process of the sale, and kind of like the ins and outs of the weeds, I guess, if you will, on the entire process, because it was a doozy. We got it to the finish line a couple days ago, actually, and just rounded out the year with it. So depending when you are listening to this podcast, it was we closed on it on the 31st of December, so right before the new year, and to close out 2025. So we were excited about it, wanted to talk about what while it was fresh in our minds. And yeah, Corey, you want to break us down?
This was had some tax implications too at the end of the year, like whether or not we were going to have capital gains for 2025 or 2026. So we're up against like kind of a tight timeline. But just to give you a background on like the beginning of this was the first property that we ever did like any rehab on. Like I bought two turnkey, we bought a third turnkey together, and this was our fourth, our second together. And you know, we've talked about like the process of buying this property before. We're going to focus more on the sale, but just to give people a background, we bought it for $135. We put $60,000 of renovations into it with the home style loan. But I was looking at comps the other day, and we actually bought it. This is like the funny part about like being in this game long enough. Like we didn't even know how good of a deal it was when we bought it. I knew, I was like, this seemed like a low number, but we weren't like studying the numbers. But the comps were like 225 when we bought it, and we bought it as an estate sale. We mentioned an elderly lady, like she passed away and her children inherited it. So we bought it as an estate sale with our lawyer from them. 135, put 60 grand into it. And the whole thing is like, why were we going to sell? So as we started buying more in like New England and New Hampshire, Vermont, we realized that, you know, we were kind of exiting our portfolio from New Jersey a little bit, like trying to like consolidate our portfolio. And then, you know, I've mentioned this before, I'm getting married. You already bought your dream home, the home you're going to raise your children in. So we were like, okay, this is a good time for both of us. And sometimes when you have 50-50 partners, that good time might be off, you know? So we were like, okay, what could we get for it? And then how would that multiply our dollars from when we first purchased it? So when we bought it, we were all in for $195, and we had to put 15% down on a home style loan. So that was including closing costs, $40,000. So 20 each. So we were thinking if we could get $350,000 for this property, that would over quadruple our investment in 4.5 years. And that's pretty good. So we can walk through the process of listing it and doing all that, but we ended up selling it for $350, which took our initial 20K investment, and it was like $85, $90 each after, we split that. So we were thinking, okay, if we're in this game to play real life Monopoly, like, we don't have to keep our money in the same asset for 20 years. You know, we had great paying tenants. It was cash flowing like $500 or $600 a month, but we were thinking, okay, take this, pay for some life things, and then go dump it into new investments. But really, this episode is to highlight the process of the sale, and we can get into kind of how that went.
Yeah, I think when you get into this game, it's talking about portfolio restructuring at this point, because some of the things that you bought early on, they hit this point where you feel like you maxed them out, right? We could have kept holding this property, and it probably would have kept going up in value, that 4 to 5% a year, but the rent that we've been able to charge, it's gone up a healthy amount. We had the same tenant. She did 2-year leases. And I think one of the things that like put our back against the wall or really kind of pushed us, they were looking to leave and go purchase their own property. And so it was perfect timing for us, right? They're looking to move on with their lives. We have these big life moments coming up, and it just made sense. We sat down, we talked about it, we ran the numbers, and that's why we decided to sell ultimately. I think the interesting part was they were, you know, as they were looking to go buy, people kind of float that at you sometimes, and we just were like, okay, like, are these people ever going to actually buy? Are they just trying to not pay the increased rent that we were going to charge? And we actually had a relationship with this tenant because it's one of the first people that we ever put into a property, and it was a woman who actually ended up back in the day selling a property that she lived in with her kids. Her and her grandkids wanted to go to a better school, so they moved down to this district, and she basically gave us this really like nice life story. And we took a shot on her, right? Like her credit score was fine. The income levels were interesting because it was her and her daughter coming into the property. I won't get like too in the weeds with it, but my point is we kind of like let them grow within, like, as human beings through our property. And we had like a great relationship with them. And sometimes you don't have that with tenants. So when they told us they wanted to buy, we took it really serious. We're like, okay, let's decide right now if we want to ask them more questions, see if they're actually going to buy, or if we're going to just try to press them hard and like trim up the rent a little bit and see if they want to rent again at a cheaper rate. Ultimately, they really decided they wanted to buy. And so when we went through the process, you can kind of get into this, but we did end up help them find a property to buy, which is really cool.
We connected them with for new listeners of the episode, I'm licensed in PA, but I refer business in New Jersey to a member of our community, Anthony, who's been awesome. And the day that we were telling the tenants that we were going to go, like, okay, we're coming in to see what we need to do work-wise, they're like, oh, my real estate agent's like not that great. I was like, you need to talk to Anthony. And Anthony ended up helping them get a new property and then helped us sell it. So, I mean, that was awesome just to see how happy they were, that they're like, oh, these guys are real nice people. Like, they helped us get to the next stage in our life. It wasn't just like you were just paying rent in our house. So I think part of this is like, okay, going through the process of deciding to sell, when we realized, okay, maybe we can get this number, what happened was we got lucky a little bit here. So we had, interest rates back in 2021 when we bought this property. We didn't get it like 3, but it was like 4.75, and that was because we did a home style loan. But if you think about the trajectory of the housing market in the last 4 years or 5 years, we fixed up the property, figured it was worth $225 when we bought it. We bought it at $135. We were all in for $195 underneath the original value. I think it was worth like $260 or so. So we didn't like force appreciate too much, $260 or so when we were done. But then we had this run up of appreciation over the last, it's like $100,000 of appreciation in 4.5 years. We were thinking like, I think that level of appreciation in this market was more so a larger level between 2021 and 2025 than it would be between 2025 and 2029. Like, we went faster than I think it'll continue to go. I don't think it's going to dip too much, but we were like, okay, let's plan for this is the time to actually offload it. So when we met with Anthony, we were like, how much work do we need to put into this property? First thing we did was put like $3,500 in of like, we put like a new like, was that back Bilco doors? We did some small fixes around the house. And we decided to list it for $339. Try to like get some momentum, but like we really wanted to price it right. The challenge that we had is that the lease was up in August, so we were kind of like during the whole month of September and like some of October trying to fix this property up to try to get it on the market prior to like the fall market. I think we ended up getting it on the market in middle of October.
Yep. Middle of October.
And it kind of sat for a little bit, and we were like, okay, what do we need to do to get this to move? And then she was a first-time home buyer that came to us with an agent, and she said they offered above asking. They offered $350, and we were like, great, like let's help get this person to the finish line, similar to how we helped our tenants. And I remember vividly, she was on the borderline of whether or not she can qualify for this loan, and their agent came to our agent, and she was like, oh, she got pre-approved, but financing fell through. Like, I'm not sure we're going to be able to move forward. And I remember having this call with me and Anthony, and we're like, so she only talked to one lender? Like, what happened? He's like, dude, I got this. Like, we set her up with our lender, the one that we know, and he helped facilitate it. They improved her credit. And this goes to show, like, having someone on your team and team members around you that are willing to go the extra mile, that are willing to go to bat for you. We were like, not a problem. I think a lot of agents and a lot of people in the situation would be like, she can't qualify, move on, right? But for us, it was like, we're getting this person into their first home. She really likes the place. We're like, first, is she serious? Does she want to do this? She is serious. She just had a lender who like couldn't make the numbers work. And then that's why you call 5, 6, 7 lenders. Like, if you keep calling somebody, you just have to be persistent with it. So that was the thing that got her over the finish line. Like, our lender was like, no, we need to remove this from her credit. We need to do this. And then she qualifies, and she was really happy about that. And I was like, all right, we got a deal. So then we can get into like all the other repairs we ended up having to make, more so than we thought we were going to have to make, but township, all of that came into play. So if you've ever tried getting a mortgage, which I'm sure many of you have, you know how daunting and discouraging it can be of a process. The slow process, paperwork, being told no without any real explanation. One time we were even told that taking out a home equity line of credit on an investment property wasn't even possible. So that all changed when we were introduced to Neo Home Loans. What makes Neo different is literally how they approach lending. They're not just checking the boxes. They're legit problem solvers. They look at your entire financial picture and explore multiple angles, literally until they find a strategy that works. They helped us reposition our portfolio, pull out lines of credits to scale, and structure everything for long-term growth. And on top of that, their rates were some of the most competitive that we've seen. They just literally did whatever it takes to find a solution. For us, Neo has become our liability advisor. The same way you have a financial advisor on the asset side for the liabilities. If you're serious about building wealth through real estate, it's worth sitting down with them and getting your lending strategy dialed in. If you want to book a call with them, click the link in our show notes. Their team is unreal, but don't just take it from us. Find out for yourself.
Yeah, it was a pain. I also want to highlight just your idea or thought of shopping around, right? You shop around for plumbers, for electricians. Whenever you have something going wrong at your property, it's not typical where you just take the first person that comes to your house, or you shouldn't. My point is to make sure you go around and see what's out there, especially when you're looking for rates at this point. I know the housing market kind of keeps going up and down. It's like shop around for the right lender. But my point with our lender and having someone in our back pocket was, this deal could have easily fell through. This was the only offer we had, by the way. We had 5 or 6 people go through the property and this was over the course of like 2-3 weeks. And we were kind of like nervous about this. We're like, should we have an open house? Should we wait? Should we pay for the extra photos? There was a lot of things in succession. We had this like little sum of cash that we were willing to deploy on the property. And we decided to hold it back and try to really push through and actually take this woman to the finish line. One of the coolest things was the lender that we worked with was able to get her a credit because it was either credit or a grant.
It was a grant.
It was a grant
from the government.
For the government, because she was a single mom, but also she had a beauty salon and she was an entrepreneur. And I think she had multiple jobs. She might have had a W-2 as well. So she had a lot of things going on where she was trying to improve, right? And so this was another thing that was like, we were able to get her approved and carry through to the finish line, which is like changing her life too, which is one of the coolest things. And I think a lot of times you'll find real estate agents and people out there and people in the industry, they're just kind of weekend warriors. Her agent wasn't the best. Anthony actually had to coach that agent all the way through the process to say like, hey, are you asking these questions? Are you doing this? She was kind of newer to the game. And if we didn't have Anthony, truly, I know we wouldn't have got this deal to the finish line. And it was kind of cool watching him. We'll get into Anthony, but like watching a member of our community, he's a real estate agent, investor. He also has a W-2, but like watching him just dial all the way in and use his experience and his Rolodex of contacts to get this thing to the finish line was just so impressive to me. And it made me really thankful for the people on our team and like the people in our network. We always talk about, when we throw around that quote, like your network, your net worth equals your net worth, right? But like for us, we wouldn't have had this payout, wouldn't have gotten to the finish line if we didn't have Anthony in his contacts and like had cultivated this relationship. So I'm just very thankful for it. But you can carry on to the next stage. I was just kind of wanted to mention that.
I mean, we went through the normal stage of like getting the inspection report and figuring this out. And of course, the inspection report, like this house is a 100-year-old home that we rehabbed. We didn't replace every system though. We put new like what are those things called? Mini splits in. We did a new roof, but there were still things that made it feel like a 100-year-old home. So when the inspection report came back, I was just like a little nervous that that a first-time home buyer might like freak out, and she didn't. She said they had a lawyer who like listed out like every single item on the inspection report, and we're like, look, we're not doing all of this. But we did a lot of it. So we're like, we'll do 10 of these items. And we had our contractor like review the scope of work, who we got another one through a connection that of the person who helped us buy the house, right? This is all full circle. So we had a list of things that we needed to do. But the important thing is like between the people that we knew in New Jersey and the people that Anthony knew, we had a painter on deck. We actually didn't end up needing that, but we had a plumber on deck. We had an electrician. We had somebody for mold, somebody for termites, all these things. And we had these little things that we had to piecemeal together. I felt like we were back in the GCing of like the renovations of the project. And I remember like I was going to the project back and forth, and it kind of sparked something. And it made me like a little bit grateful because our portfolio has grown. And I realized like once you can graduate from the doing all of the work yourself and like remove yourself from the mind space of like being the managing the actual property. But we were back in it, and I was like, oh man, I remember what these days were like. Like they were a little bit more stressful than they are now, but you kind of like, you just get used to your new normal, right? So I was, meeting the people at the property, talking to inspectors. An inspector for our CO had failed us for something, and it turns out that our contractor fixed the wrong window. That like, it was a number of things that happened. We ended up spending like 10, 12K on fixing up the property, but when we were in the middle of this process, we realized like we want to do everything that we can to make sure that this person walks into like a nice home and she doesn't get spooked by something new popping up. So we spent more money than we wanted to, but we fixed windows, we sealed stuff in the basement, we bolted new beams. There was a number of projects that we did, but I was like, I just want to make her feel. We got rid of like a minor mold situation, minor termite situation. And I think people listening, like when you hear something like mold or termites, like you instantly think, oh my God, like my house is going to fall down. Like it was $600 to do the termites and $700 for the mold. I think the more you're in this game, you realize like some of these things are so normal. Like my inspector that I used on a property that I just sold for a client, he's like, that 60% of homes like have termites. Like it's so normal and you can get rid of them. So it's just, I think there's people that maybe aren't used to it, but that's part of the game.
Yeah, there's a lot I want to unpack there. And I think for people that are buying or just getting into real estate for the first time or buying their first home, this woman, right, she loaded up with an attorney, right, because she wanted to protect herself and she had no idea what she was actually doing to get into this process. So anything that pops up is going to be scary. You mentioned the mold, you mentioned the termites, all this stuff. She's probably like, we're nervous on our side because we're like,
we think that she's going to be nervous.
Yes, because we're so accustomed to this. We're like, this is nothing, but she like, it's probably magnified to her. She's just focusing on her job and like raising her kids. Right. And she's like, wants a safe home. And for us, we're like, these are not things that are going to tear down and break down a house. It's not like a structural thing. Like when Corey mentioned, we did the roof and we did all this stuff. This was when we first bought the property. We did a lot of big capital expenditures.
The whole basement for like 20 grand.
We've basically flipped the house and kept it. Right. Yeah. And we just made it as nice as possible. But another reason why we're doing this episode is just to give perspective. Like there were so many dominoes that had to fall the right way for us to actually get this deal done. And like getting under contract with this woman was the biggest win of all in the beginning at like 350. We're like, okay, first of all, 10 grand over asking on our first and only offer. Let's do everything we possibly can. But Anthony warned us. He's like, listen, this is an FHA buyer. FHA, when they come in, they do their own inspection and it's more magnified. They want to make sure you're like preparing the home for someone that's moving in for the first time to make sure that's basically
borderline of whether or not she can afford it. That's typically why they do that, to protect the home buyer, right? The new home buyer. So
exactly. And right, she's only putting 3.5% down as an FHA buyer, right? So, but my point here is we had to go through those inspections. And then we also, on top of that, had to get a certificate of occupancy. And going through all of these things, right, there was some fixes that were recommended, other fixes we had to do. So we had to do all the CO, certificate of occupancy fixes. And a lot of those, that was the issue why it came down to the wire. We had to get an HVAC certification, a plumbing certification, electrical certification, a licensed and insured contractor in all those fields to come out, check the property, give the thumbs up. Then we submit those to the township. We had to go back and forth a bunch of times. Then the CO, the reason why it was such a pain in the butt is the contractor that we had fixed everything on the FHA sheet, right? But then on the CO report, he fixed the wrong window. And we're there the day before the property is about to close. Corey and I just decided to buck up. We're like, dude, we're just meeting down there. So it's Corey, myself, and Anthony. And the reason why this kind of is full circle is like, Corey and I were boots on the ground in this property when we first bought it years ago. And we called 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We were loading out the trash with these guys. We were repainting the walls till like 3 a.m. before the tenants came in. We were fixing the latches of the doors ourselves. So this was like our baby, right? And it was kind of weird. We thought, hey, we're just going to, Anthony's going to handle this thing for us. It's going to be like our remote deals. We're just going to buy, sell, flip, not even look at it. And then we were back in the grind again. I felt like it was kind of nice and cool to have the full circle moment because it gives us a nice podcast episode. But my point is, we get to there with Anthony and we had talked, this was my first time meeting Anthony in person. You had met him a couple times going on the property, but I talk about like relationship capital all the time and like the people around you to help, elevate you and take care of you. And to be able to see him in action and just like have that first time feel of like, hey, this is like a real dude. We've met him a million times on Zoom, but watching him attack this thing like it was his own project was amazing. Corey and I looked at each other at one point and it was like getting towards the end of the day before closing. And like, we realized the wrong window was fixed and we're like, dude, is this not going to happen? Like, we're like, how do we force this to happen? We'll fix the window ourselves. So we, calling Home Depot, calling Lowe's, they don't have the right window. We don't know how to fix glass, by the way. Anthony's calling, he literally made like 5 rapid fire calls.
2-hour glass.
Yep.
2-hour glass. Yeah.
2-hour glass. Called him. Turns out they were the nicest people ever. And actually the guy on the phone could like hear our urgency. And he's like, dude, I got you. Like, we're going to take care of you. It was like he was proud of his business too. So he sent the guys down, fixed the glass. Next day, 9:30, had the CO report, the inspection. They came through. We were calling them every hour to say, hey, are we approved? We were
sitting at closing. Like, we signed the day before, but the buyers were sitting at closing, and the only thing that was holding up was the inspector. Was the CO.
Yeah, you nailed it. So, I guess I skipped over. So the glass got fixed. We went down to the real estate agent's office, signed our like, hey, we're selling this property, and then the attorney on their side's like, hey, we're not signing anything until that has been fixed. We have it in writing. We have the receipt. Like, they were going down to like us showing receipts, proving permits, all this extra mile stuff. So the next day we were like hounding them for the CO, the township, right? So they go in at like 9:30. We're calling them up until 12:30. The lady's like, yeah, we should have heard back by now. Maybe he didn't take a lunch today or didn't stop back in the office. So we think immediately something's
like at the bar drinking.
Yeah, we're like, what is this guy doing? Yeah,
just waiting.
So once again, just the stress level is so high. And by the way, we still have like 9 other things going on, not just trying to close this property. So we finally get the call like 2:30 or so, 2:30 or 3, like, hey, green light. They sent over the CO report, and then we had to wait till 4:30 to see if they were going to sign. They finally signed. The wire hit.
Best part though, the CO report. This is why it's just funny. The townships, man, they sent over the piece of paper that had the CO on it, and it was our address in Jersey and your home address for the town. And I was like, this isn't the right, like, we can't move forward with this. It's the wrong address. And he was like, oh. So he went and fixed it. So we were like literally down to the wire, and they were waiting at the closing table. And you never know, man. People get spooked at the closing table, and they get cold feet. And, at that point, it's really hard for a buyer to actually like walk away. But to their credit, they move forward with it. And I don't know the stress level on their end. I'm sure it was intense, but we got it done.
Hey, let me pause the episode real quick. Let me know if this sounds like you. You're making 6 figures, you're climbing the corporate ladder, investing in your 401k and your Roth IRA, and maybe even a brokerage account. But deep down, you're asking yourself, is this really it? Like, am I just going to do this thing for the next 30 years and hope to retire in my 60s? That was exactly us just a few years back. We were curious and excited about real estate, but overwhelmed and without a roadmap. If you fast forward to today, we've built a portfolio of over 80 cash flowing units and grown our net worth to over $2 million. We made it our mission to help busy professionals like you take that same leap and start building generational wealth for yourself and your family. That's exactly why we created the Wealth Juice Inner Circle, a private real estate investing community designed to help you get your first rental property under your belt in as little as 90 days. Inside, you'll get direct access to us, our full investing network, private off-market deals, and our exact playbook, and a community of investors who are closing deals every single week. That first property changed everything for us. We always talk about it. It was the true foundation for building generational wealth. And honestly, if we had access to something like this when we first started, we'd be 10 times further along by now. So if this sounds just like you, click the link in our show notes and schedule a call with me. Yes, me. I'll be taking the calls. We'll go over your goals, map out a plan, and get you ready to close your first deal. Let's get it.
I just, I feel really good about it because we gave her a solid property, right? We made sure we couldn't not fix anything, right? We fixed everything we possibly needed to for her to feel good about this. But also for us too, is like going back through the ringer again. And it kind of brought us back to our like early days where you realize this game isn't really for the faint of heart. Like a lot of people probably would go through this. And especially if this is your first project and you don't have this big network or people to call and like check in on and see if you can help, get things to the finish line. It could have been one of those many steps along the way that we're just like, we got to go to the next buyer. We got to relist this thing.
I think most people don't realize how much of like a team game it is. And also the severity of a certain thing. Like, when you go down in a basement and you see mold, like, is that the end of the world? Is that going to ruin you? Like we were a little bit callous to that, but we did have a moment where, it's just funny because I feel like we've built a strong business and a pipeline, and we buy properties remote, and we're very hands-on in the process of buying those properties, but not in the construction of them anymore. So when we were driving to a like off-site, like hardware store to get the anti-tip for the stove, it's like you and I driving here, and we always say this on our podcast, it's like, leverage out tasks, like, don't be the one that has fixing the toilets at 2 a.m. And I think for us it was just kind of funny because it was like we were back in it, like picking up this anti-tip. And meanwhile, I don't know how to even install it. So we brought to our contractor, and I was like, "Do you know how to install this?" It's not complicated, by the way. Anyone could probably install. I'm just inept when it comes to like handyman work. So we were driving to get this, taking calls from the glass guy, like just thinking like, is there anything that we missed? Like that's what I was thinking the whole time. Like, is there anything that the inspector's going to go in there and he's going to be having a bad day and he's just going to mark it like that he can't do it. And then it's New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, and then the buyers are going to get spooked, and it's 2026, and it affects our taxes and all this. So the fact that it came down to the wire was just kind of like classic us, you know. But the reason why I brought all this up is just because like this is kind of the fun part. Like, this is actually how things go. Like, this is the game.
It's stuff we're not going to forget. Like we've told this story for the last 6-7 years. I kind of like jumble these years up. I kind of forget how long we've been doing this, but it's been over 5. So, and I never forget the 1-800 got junk story in this property, and like you and me laughing so hard. Like, what are we doing?
Like, I remember I was walking outside the house. We're taking stuff out and putting it on the front lawn as if someone's going to come by and take all this stuff. And we're like, I remember looking at you and like, I'm not taking all this stuff out of the house. There was a full furnished home. And we're like, yeah, we forgot when we bought it that we have to get this stuff out. Let's get out of here.
Corey and I
we just thought, maybe our contractor will do this. Like, he's not doing it.
Because we had no idea. Dude, it's the best part of like going through the journey and realizing like y'all start somewhere, right? And so this brought me back. And then, you know, this stage, right? Us selling this, I'll never forget this. I just remember you and I in your car, like Batman and Robin, driving this stupid window store, or the bracket store. Sorry, picking up the bracket. We're like, well, hope this fits. No clue. If it all comes down to this bracket not fitting. Then I remember we stopped in a Wawa and like we're driving and stuff, and we're like, we finally sit in the car and we're like, man, I think I'm really thinking we're close to this finish line. That we're gonna do it. And we're just like, we looked at each other like, oh, hope we got this. And then we start. It's the end of the year, so we start trying to like have a quick 30-minute talk about how we're going to take down 2026 in like this quick window before we go sell this property. And I just look at it, I go, just get out of the car, dude. Just get out of the car. You're like, what? I go, just get out of the car. And like in the middle of the Wawa parking lot, we just embrace.
The lady was looking at us next door. She's like, these guys are hugging
the biggest random hug in like a rainy day in a Wawa parking lot. And it was the fun. I loved it, but it felt like if we had a camera on us, dude, this lady next to us in the car must have been dying. Yeah. Laughing. And Corey actually rolled down the window. He's like, hey, you want one too? And she's just like, wouldn't look at us anymore. It's hilarious. So it just, to me, I won't ever forget that. And I was like, you just like the stress levels are so high. And like, we always see each other on Zoom and we're always doing the shit. But like when you're back, like the amount of time we actually spend together is heavy, but a lot of times it's on Zoom. So like to be back, like goobers, like just taking things down, but like actually doing the damn thing in real life, if you will. It's kind of weird to even say that, but it's something I won't forget. I loved it. The whole process, it was very stressful. We came out on top. We provided, by the way, this whole picture, this whole story, which I'm like super proud of, is we're changing people's lives. And it's not just us, but it's the team that you put around you. The tenants, right? They wanted to get to the next level. They ended up buying a home. That's amazing. The woman that it's her first time homeowner, she's an entrepreneur. She's raising kids. She has a great home. By the way, we now can go to the next level of our lives. We can take some of these proceeds. We invested it. The problem with us is as soon as it hits our account, it immediately goes to something else, but that's fine. We deployed some of that into a new project, and then Corey's paid for his wedding and I paid for my home that I'm going to raise my kids in. So it's like, it's just full circle. It was the complete elevation of our lives. And I think it goes back to the question of like, when should you sell? And do you offload some of your portfolio? And for us, this was more of a restructure, and it was kind of like you mentioned, like putting to bed some of our New Jersey portfolio and really doubling down on Vermont and New Hampshire and saying, hey, like this is where our future is going to be. We're on this next stage of our investing lives. We're going to commit to the small to mid multifamily, you know, the 5 to 50 units in that market, and just truly, we talked about this the other day, like a goal for us now is like that lane of the business, getting that to a certain rental income to hire in-house, instead of hiring outside property management, take it in-house and get 500 units together with our partners up there and just really make a name for ourselves in that market. And that's where I feel like you can really find a lot of success. A lot of people, I think, when you go through this journey, you try a lot of different things. We've tried Airbnbs, we've tried boutique hotels, we've tried all these things. And the one thing that's been super consistent over the last couple of years is the small to mid-size multi and the team that we've built and how we analyze deals. And we found our buy box, right? And people talk about that all the time. And I think I'm just excited for that next stage, because instead of us having to like juggle and figure out new lanes of income and like all these things, like let's just focus on what works, what we're good at, and what our team, our best team members are. And that's the next stage. So it all of this kind of goes within that lane. We kind of closed one chapter and opened another.
Yeah, but just for some more tangible advice on like the end of the process here that I wanted to mention before we wrap the episode, is like, remember that the inspectors and the township and other agents and everyone is an emotional human being. You know, they're not like, I like to look at like the inspectors are like referees of a football game or a basketball game. I said this on a podcast the other day. Like, if you're screaming in the referee's face, I don't care how clean the call is. They're going to think about, I hate this person. Like, am I going to make this call? Like, it's, he's laughing over there. It's true. So like, my thing is, I remember having this call to the township. Her name is Suzanne. And every time I called her, I was like, hey, Suzanne, how's everything going? Like, I called her like 3 times in a day, and she's like, hey, Corey. I'm like, I just want to like give you some context to the situation. So we, our buyers are at the closing table. So the reason why I'm calling you is just because, we're in a little bit of a time crunch, but I'm curious if you could, is there any way to expedite this process? Is there anyone that I can talk to, or is there any way that I can help you? And she's like, no, but I really appreciate you calling. And like, she eventually, when, it happened where we got approval, she called me right away and she's like, you feel good now? Like, everything good? But I just think if you're stressed out and you're calling the township and you're like, where is this? Like, F you, like, they're not, I mean, they could just as easily be like, you failed. I mean, that would maybe be illegal, but like, the point is like, they could be like, he didn't get back in time. Sorry. Like, not my problem. It's like, everyone's out there for themselves. So you have to kind of lean in and be nice to people. And it's not fake. I'm like, I know that she's stressed because she's dealing with tenants and she's dealing with owners and she's dealing with inspectors and she's dealing with deadlines. It's like, the township gets a bad rap. Like, they were not that smooth, but it wasn't the end of the world if you're just nice to people.
I was taught this at a young age, and it's paid off for me in many ways than it hasn't. And it's kill them with kindness. And it sucks so hard sometimes to do that. And you're like, dude, I don't like, not Suzanne. She was actually a doll, but other people. We worked in customer service for a long time, sales, customer service, whatever you want to call it, and you're getting chewed out half the time. I've become so callous to this, but at the end of the day, if you can just remain that constant, like happy, optimistic voice, half the time they're going to get worn down, they're freaking out. And like half the time it's just something going on in their life and it's impacting their work, right? They probably don't want to go do all the things that they're doing on a daily basis. They have a family to raise. They have things to pay for, but so kill them with kindness. It is a relationship game. This whole entire game of life, if you will. We found in real estate, it's really a relationship game, and it's about being resourceful and leaning on other people to get things to the finish line. I also just wanted to give one anecdote about you calling Suzanne. I didn't realize Corey had called her 4 times because at one point he sends a text.
I don't know if it was 4, but she's like, 3. Oh yeah, your partner called me too. I was like, shit.
Yeah. So you okay. So here's my point. He drops in the group chat to Anthony, and he's like, hey, I tried calling, Suzanne's kind of giving me the runaround a little bit. She's like telling me that they'll probably be there at like 12:30. Not really the runaround, but trying to get a timeline, right? He's like, if one of you guys could call and just like check in, that'd be great. I call and I'm like, hey, Suzanne, Ryan calling with blank, blank, blank address in New Jersey. And she's like, oh, hi, Ryan. I've talked to Corey 4 times already today. Honestly, nothing's changed yet. I'll let you guys know. And it was just one of those things where I could tell she gave this like big sigh when I called. She knew exactly who I was when I called. It's just hilarious but it really proved because she was nice to me, and I could tell she did not want to be. She's like, respectfully, like, I will call you guys when something changes. I'm like, okay, I won't call you back. But it was just
but we were like, Suzanne, maybe like, I don't know. She kept saying, this is like, my whole thing is like, I'm very impatient and I don't like this about myself. But when someone says 12:30, like, I just expect that they're not BSing, like, and it was like 3:00 when it actually happened. So I didn't give her a hard time for it, but like, she's like, oh, he'll be back at 12:30. So at 12:45, I'm like, just checking in. Like, you said he would be back. Meanwhile, people just say things and it's not 100% like, I don't know. But we had the buyer sitting at closing. So I was like, I don't want them to sit there and be like, is this not happening? And get really worried.
No, I hope we did this justice and like just kind of explained. There were so many dominoes that had to fall the right way for this deal to get done, and it came down to the wire. So I'm just like happy about it, proud about it. Obviously, you're happier when the cash hits your account, but it was really because lives were changed. We got to all go to the next level, and it just makes me feel even more ready for the next deal. Like, we've experienced so much BS within this deal. I've learned so much too, and I think that's what people forget sometimes is like, it's not supposed to all go smooth. You're supposed to have these hurdles and speed bumps, because then the next time it doesn't feel like a big problem. You're like, I've already been through that.
So the properties, just to round this out, the properties that each of us bought from 2018 to 2022, it's like the first 4 years of buying, outside of your primary home that's now turned into a rental and my first house hack, we've sold the rest of those properties. And then I bought more in 2023. We bought our 18 unit in 2023. We bought some properties in the Poconos that we sold, and then property in Tampa. But I say this because when we bought those properties in the beginning, the goal was like, we're going to hold on to these for 10 plus years. Real estate's a long-term game, you know? So there are part of the properties in our portfolio that we're like, hey, we're not giving up. And originally this was one of them. And I remember having this conversation with you. I was like, dude, this is a staple. This is going to stay. And then life happens, you know? Like when I left my job like 18 months ago to go full time in this, my cash situation has been fluctuating significantly. Like I've had to make changes in my life. And like then on top of that, paying for the wedding, that was the decision we were like, okay, we should move on this, even though at one point this was a staple that we were going to hold for 20 years. So I think to round it out, it's like the portfolio architecture. It's okay to sell a rental property. You know, like I sold my first one within 3 years and it netted $100,000 for me. So it's like, now I just checked the Zillow listing just to see what that property was, and it went up another 50. Okay, maybe I missed out on 50 grand, but I took that 100 and put it into another asset that appreciated quicker. So you can't always win in every scenario. And I think if we look back on this property in 2050, it's probably going to be worth 700 grand, whatever. Like, you know, inflation's going to make it rise. We're going to be like, we would have been paid off. We might look back and be like, wow, we really shouldn't have sold that. But at the end of the day, you got to live your life along the way. And that's the decision we made.
Here's the argument too. It's like, who says we're all going to be around to 2050?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be like, you know, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like pessimist there. But I will say, like, we think about the velocity of money. You think about the opportunities. We moved the money that we received from this into other ventures, but then also our lives. It's not like we just bought a new car and said things like, I don't think we're ever going to regret
I said that to you though. When the money hit my account, I was like, dude, I could just go buy this BMW that I've been looking up. And you're like, you're not doing that.
I replied to you. I go, we are not being broke boys right now. You are not doing that. I refuse to let you do that. And but it's just funny because you see it in your account. Like I could do a lot with that. A lot. And a lot of people, and it's when I say a lot of people, it's a natural human thing to be, you raise your lifestyle with that. You're like, okay, I have it now so I can go do the things that I want to do. It's like keeping a layer of delayed gratification when it comes to these things. And it's the discipline and consistency, right? It's like Corey and I, we kind of almost like siphoned out and kind of told each other what we were doing with the cash. And we reserved a portion of it for another venture that we're doing together. And then it also pays for some of the business. Like there's a lot of cool things that we can reinvest the cash in. And it's doesn't always have to be real estate, but I do think for us, it wasn't like hey, I'm not going to look back in 2050 and regret this, because I do think it's going to elevate 2 or 3 other things that we wouldn't have been able to do. We would have just kept waiting. And I think when you wait and you wait and you wait, you're doing the same. You're almost like hoarding your cash, and you're waiting to eventually live your life when you can live it now and just, you know, do it in a different way than maybe you expected.
Yeah. The way that I've tried to live and like look at this, and I was like, talking to my fiance the other day, I'm just like, I can't believe I'm 34. Like, it just doesn't feel any different than 23. Like, you know, so the reason why I brought it up is like, I think in your 20 to 25, you should have like an 80% delayed gratification mindset. Like, think mostly about the future. Think 20% about, hey, I still want to enjoy my life and have fun. You don't need to be a robot. And then 25 to 30, like maybe move that to like 60%. Right? Delayed gratification, still delay. But like 40% of it is like, I still want to live for the now. And now that 30 to 35 for me has kind of been like a 50-50 split of like 50% thinking about the future, 50% I'm paying for my wedding, man. Like I'm living right now. Like I'm going to Tampa later this month to get away from the cold because I'm sad in the cold. You know, I'm like, I have to, now it's at 50-50, maybe 35 to 40 is, maybe it's still 50-50. Maybe I'm just giving you like a barometer of where I feel like so much of the last 10 years have been like thinking about the future and investing and putting our money away. And it's so much of our money's in the ground. Now it's starting to pay us dividends, but it's just interesting when you like recalibrate and you think like, whoa, my net worth on paper is great, but like the access to this cash is not as accessible as I thought it was. Okay, I'd have to sell this property or I'd have to go access this. And it's like, when you think you have a certain net worth, you think like, oh, it's just sitting there waiting for you. And it's like, so my point in bringing all this up is like that decision to sell this and the process and going through all of it all was the right decision for us at the time. And it's okay to make those types of decisions.
It's the same thing when it comes to the stock market. It's portfolio restructure, right? Asset allocation. And you do this, your timeline changes, right? From your 20s to your 30s to your 40s to your 50s, right? And you're like, sometimes you're heavier in bonds, sometimes you're heavier in direct stocks, sometimes heavier in ETFs and all these things. And now it's just for us, we are recalibrating our real estate portfolio. You have to do that too. And I already mentioned to you, like that's allowing us to kind of fuel this flywheel of the next level. And then also it's like getting into more liquid assets, right? We moved some things into, hey, these assets that if we do need to sell, we can have an immediate cash in our pocket, move to the next thing, or an opportunity comes up, or we need to reinvest in the business or in ourselves in mentorship, whatever it is. We have the cash to do it and not have to wait for stipulations to pull it out of the ground. And I think that sometimes is difficult with real estate. And that's where you feel like you're like, I'm building all this like future wealth and it's going to be amazing. By the way, the next 4 or 5 years on refis and sales of properties, we're gonna feel amazing. And we talked about this the other day. It's like we just got to keep planting those seeds. But now it's like focusing on the active income. How can we make more active income to feel those things, but also to have that like level of flexibility and like the I guess the stress on your shoulder, right? Like the financial stress, just to like not have it as much. And that's just a whole new game. And that's why I was saying we were sitting in the car trying to plan out our 2026. I'm like, dude, let's just get through this. I had to coach myself through it because I was like, dude, like, what are you doing? We're going to turn the page in a couple of days. Just like hurry up and finish this project. So long story short, that's where our mindset was going into like why we sold this property. Here's the process of how we sold it, the lives that were impacted, and then, our future goals. I already kind of talked about. I don't know if I missed anything, but
no, I think that was it. We just wanted to give you the full breakdown of the actual process of going through and selling what we were able to sell it for, what we were able to net, like the ins, the weeds, the talking to the township, all that. We got a little bit on a tangent on the end, but that was the goal of this. And then just a quick shout out in the Philadelphia area and you're looking to buy or sell or invest, like I'm grinding now on the agent side and it's fun. I've had a lot of fun with it. So reach out to me. I'm happy to help anybody that's like actively looking, buy, sell, invest. And then if you're looking to get help growing your rental portfolio, like reach out to us on IG at Wealth Juice Official. Ryan and I are growing our mentorship program and our coaching community, and people are getting deals done every day. I just figured I'd throw a quick plug about that in there. But that was the episode. That was the goal, to get this done by 2025 for tax purposes. And then we have a capital gains bill in 2025 that we're working through with our CPA right now. But that's the story. Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to your little shout out right there. Someone asked us the other day, is like, when people ask you, what do you do? What do you say? And it was hard for us to answer that because we feel like we do a bunch of different things. And I think the long and short of it is, you ever have people come up to you and they say, well, like what exactly, like, who do you serve? What do you do? What's your elevator pitch? And like, we have a question back to them now. It's like, well, do you know the people that want to start investing in real estate, but they don't know how? That's who we help. And how can we do it? Well, it's kind of like a white glove service approach from multi levels. Hey, if you need one-on-one coaching, we have a program for that where you can jump in and we coach you on a weekly basis, literally one-on-one and one-to-many, and help you get your first deal. If you have no time and you just want to go directly and get a property in our backyard, great. Corey's an agent. He can take care of you. Oh, you make a high income and you want to diversify into real estate and you already have your cash set in the stock market and you want to potentially get double-digit returns backed by real estate, well, you can potentially partner with us on real estate deals in New Hampshire and Vermont. So now it's this full flywheel of like, hey, you need help with real estate. You want to get into the game. We have your back. We can help you out. This is what we've done. Here's our track record, X, Y, Z. That's through all of our content. The simplest way to get help is just drop us a DM on Instagram and we'll see where your situation is. And if you'd like help, this is purely because we put together what we were lacking in the beginning and what we felt like we needed back in the day when we were just working our W-2 jobs and we were trying to find the escape and trying to find an outlet and trying to find people to talk to about this, and we couldn't. So that's the voice and those are the people that we want to serve. And we're going to continue to do that, full steam into 2026. But hope you enjoy the episode and we'll see you next week.
Before we wrap this show up, I want to leave you with this. If you're listening to the show, chances are you're doing pretty well in your career. You're making maybe 6 figures. You're putting money into your retirement accounts, maybe stacking some cash in a brokerage account, but you're still waiting for that next level. And here's the truth. Waiting just costs you time. Every month you're on the sidelines is another month you could have had a property paying you and another step closer to financial freedom that you didn't take. Ryan and I know this because we stayed on the sidelines too long. We talk about this sometimes. We had the money, but not the guidance. And once we finally got our first property, everything shifted. It was the catalyst that built our entire portfolio and ultimately gave us freedom. And that's exactly why we built the Wealth Juice Inner Circle, to cut out wasted time, just give you the exact blueprint and surround you with a network of people who are closing deals every single week. So if you're tired of waiting and you're ready to finally get your first deal, click the link in the show notes and schedule a call with me. Let's map out your strategy and get you moving before another year slips by.